Okay, everybody. Hey, thank you for being here right on time. We are now going to move on to the home hardening part of our program, Home Hardening Deep Dive with Laura Blau, Jay Lopez, and Arizo Sarwari. So I'm going to just give you a little bit of intro to our three panelists. The way this is going to work is they're going to get up and give a little slideshow, and then each one. And then when we're done, we're going to raise the curtain, and they're going to sit behind a desk, and I'm going to ask them some questions, and hopefully we get a good discussion going. And at the end, we're going to open it up for you guys. So without any further ado, I want to introduce you to Laura Blau. She is a senior wildfire fellow at the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety, IBHS, where she leads collaborative efforts to advance wildfire resilience through strategic partnerships, applied research, and community engagement. She also serves as the chair of the board of directors for the California Fire Safe Council, working with public safety professionals, local governments, and residents to promote proactive wildfire mitigation. Laura is the retired assistant chief and fire marshal for the Orange County Fire Authority, where she led the Community Risk Reduction Department, transforming compliance-based approaches into data-driven strategies focused on measurable outcomes and lasting resilience. Good. That is, we're all good. Finish. Oh, okay. So Laura, without any further ado, please get up. All right. We know when they're ready. That's right. Well, there's your clicker.
My clicker.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, my God. No.
That's short, people.
Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Just got a few slides to discuss IBHS, what we do, how we do it, and then most importantly, how we make it available. So we are a nonprofit independent research organization funded by the insurance industry. So this is our facility in South Carolina where we do all of our research. We're going to show you this is a video. It's not going to play for you today just because of bandwidth, but we, in the middle of that big research facility that you saw, we have a turntable. It's a big concrete turntable. We build a full-scale home on it. And then we have these fans along the wall, and it can generate winds up to 130 miles an hour. And then we light a trench on fire between the home that we just built and the wall of fans, and we light it on fire and we blow embers at homes. And we do that over and over and over. And we equip the home with different types of components, different roof structures, different siding materials. And we find out how homes burn. And then most importantly, what we can do about it, how we make them more resilient. So with the wildfire program, we have a wildfire prepared program that I'll show you in a second. But we are looking at narrowing the path of conflagration and the destruction. So when we have conflagration, the severity depends on three factors. Drought at any level will stress out the vegetation and make it more vulnerable to ignition. Wind is by far the biggest factor in these firestorms. And then people. People are responsible for about 95% of the fires. Does anybody here have the app Watch Duty on their phone? It's an awesome app. Good. If you don't have it, you want it because you can set alerts. But if you look at it, at any time of day, any month of the year, you'll see several vegetation fires burning in California. Most of those, they're easily contained. The fire department sometimes lets them burn, just steers them around communities or extinguishes them depending on their level of threat. But about 1% of those fires are responsible for about 96% of the damage in California. So that's the scenario, that's the conflagration scenario we need to prepare for. So that takes three things to ignite a fire and for it to sustain itself. And those are oxygen, heat, and fuel. What can we control out of those three? Fuel, just the fuel. So when we're talking about fuel and we're talking about your home and your landscape, it can ignite in one of three ways. Embers is by far the most prevalent ignition source for having that transition from a wildfire to an urban conflagration. And they can either light it directly or indirectly. Directly by going in through the vents, landing on a surface, a vulnerable surface, or landing on something next to your home and then igniting the home, or flame and radiant heat. So when we talk about controlling that fuel, and fuel is everything in your yard that's combustible, the fire sees. So we talk about decreasing the exposure of your home by controlling what's around it. And you do that in 4 ways. 1, you remove things that are dead or dying. You remove things from this area, the zone 0 or ember zone around your home. You relocate things. So relocate them if you have a favorite plant. You relocate it away from your home in this area. Or you can, you want to also replace certain measures. So wood fencing around homes, it burns like a wick. It's like a wick. It brings that fire right to your home. So our testing shows that just eliminating that continuity of fuel next to your home by replacing the wood fencing with about 5 feet, at least 5 feet of metal gate, will break that chain and not bring the fire to your home. And then we look at the home itself. So you reduce the exposure and increase the resilience of your home. A lot of people call that home hardening. Let's look at the ways to do that. So wildfire prepared, based on all of the testing, our research testing, and then we do field assessments after major wildfires to ground truth it, to make sure that what we see in the lab can translate to real world conditions. And then we translate that into programs. We translate all of our science into programs. And so we have 2 levels of programs. This one down here in the red box is called Wildfire Prepared Home Base. That is a fairly easy, inexpensive retrofit and will protect your home from ember intrusion. So it's really good for embers. And we're talking about starting with your roof and then moving to your openings. So looking at your vents, your roof, again, because we're talking embers, landing in this area 5 feet around your home. And then from the foundation up, if you have combustible siding, 6 inches up the side of your home. If you replace that area, so right at that intersection where the embers tend to fall and gather and accumulate and swirl, if you replace that, we've done a lot of testing in our lab, and just 6 inches of non-combustible material will protect your home from that ember intrusion. And then your regular defensible space that you've heard a lot about today. The Plus program protects from embers, radiant heat, and flame. And it's a little bit more expensive, quite a bit more expensive retrofit. And that's because when we look at, you just put covers over your gutters. They need to be non-combustible metal gutters, not vinyl. It melts and falls off your home and adds to the fire. Ember and flame-resistant vents, non-combustible siding all the way up, not just the 6 inches. Protecting decks and accessory structures need to be 30 feet from your home. In March, we're going to start a new series of testing. All of our testing for like ADUs or accessory structures in your yard have been with it traditional construction on the ADU. We light it on fire and we expose it to a wildfire prepared home. And 30 feet is that magic distance. But we're hoping that we can get it down a little bit less if both homes are protected, both the ADU and the home are protected. Once you do all these things, you can go into our website and apply for, it's called a designation. And if we look at your photos, we'll send a third-party inspector out to your home. We'll validate it. Ryan's going through it right now. We'll validate that it meets all of the requirements of Wildfire Prepared Home Base or Plus, and we'll give you your certificate. And that does 2 things for you. It validates that you've met all of the requirements and you have some assurance that your home can better withstand the next wildfire. And 2, it gives you a starting point to talk to your insurance companies. Like I said, they fund all of this research. They asked us to add it to our wind-driven rain, and hail programs. And so they should be looking at it for you. This is just to reinforce Zone Zero. This is how we came up with Zone Zero a few years ago. When we were blowing embers at homes, and it didn't matter what the construction type was. Sometimes the home, a vulnerable member would fail, sometimes it wouldn't. But we always had the embers fall down, go out 5 feet, and just accumulate there. So a lot of people say, well, what if I put well-hydrated plants in that area? Well, when you think about a wind-driven fire, a lot of the things that make this area vulnerable and make the embers gather there is also going to blow debris there. So you're going to get everything rolling down the street, gathering in that same area and igniting. So that's why we're so adamant that it needs to be clear for that space. And then compared to 7A, so a lot of people who lost their home are rebuilding back. They're in a fire hazard severity zone, very high, or moderate in the SRA, or very high and high in the LRA. When you look at the difference going from Chapter 7A, the building code is going to be Part 7 in January of the Cal WUI code. But when you look at that difference, it's not a lot. And we just had a Headwaters study done. Headwaters Economics does studies of the Altadena and Palisades footprints. It'll be released next week. And their analysis showed a 2% difference in cost going from just a wildfire 7A to a wildfire plus. So you can see the small differences there. With that, I'm going to turn it over to, if you look at that QR code, the first one for Wildfire Prepared, that's our website. It'll walk you through it. We have a technical guide. So that checklist I showed you, I also have them at the booth, is just a checklist to say what kind of home components am I talking about. But the technical standard you can give to your contractor or architect to design to that.
All right. Okay, so next up is Erizo Sarwari. Erizo is the Community Resilience Project Manager at the Resource Conservation District of the Santa Monica Mountains. Erizo studied geography and environmental studies with a minor in conservation biology at UCLA. After graduation, she interned at the Council for Watershed Health in Pasadena, doing outreach, GIS mapping, and water monitoring to study and protect the Los Angeles watersheds. She then joined the RCD team as an environmental educator while also completing her NFPA wildfire preparedness training. She's been working in the last 4 years in the wildland-urban interface as a wildfire home evaluator and educator, as well as coordinating community resilience projects concerning wildfire preparedness, home hardening, and defensible space landscaping. Erizo, please welcome. And Erizo has been to a lot of houses, so.
Look at that.
Here's your, can you please forward?
Okay, great. Thank you.
Later.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ryan. Hi, everyone. It's great to see you all. Thank you for joining us. So you heard who I am. Let's start with who the RCD is. So the Resource Conservation District of the Santa Monica Mountains, we used to be located actually here in Topanga, which was really awesome. We are a special district of the state of California, like your water district or your school district, and we promote land stewardship and resource conservation. Our current services and projects include restoration, biological inventory, environmental education, community resilience, and wildfire preparedness. This is a map of the areas that we work in blue. As you can see, it involves the whole Santa Monica Mountains, but we also go into the San Gabriel Mountains, Simi Hills, and in Porter Ranch and all those great areas. One of the awesome things we provide is a community wildfire training. We just had one last week in Altadena. Our next one will probably be January, February. We're still planning, but check out our website. And you can learn all about how we do these evaluations, how to look at your home, find the vulnerabilities, and to reduce those risks. And then we also have some other workshops, trainings. We teach a class with USGBC for your landscapers and contractors to teach them how to incorporate some of these wildfire home hardening concepts and defensible space concepts into the work they do. And our free wildfire evaluations. Some of you might have seen me at your house. Just out of curiosity, how many of you have had a wildfire evaluation on your home from RCD? Awesome. Glad to see you. So the evaluation is about 45 minutes to an hour. We walk around the outside of your home. We look at your roof, your siding, everything, your landscape, and try to look for vulnerabilities where a fire could get started from embers or be transferred to your home through your fence, like Laura was telling us about, through direct flame contact once it gets lit up. So this is a really great assessment. If you haven't had one, we'll walk around and teach you so that not only will you get to reduce your risks that are current, but how to look for risks in the future because things change over time, wear and tear on wood, you move things around in your yard. So it's not a one-time thing. You got to constantly, check in with it. This is an example of what one of our reports might look like. We give you the top 5 priorities and then a ton of other information and pictures, point everything out for you. Laura already talked a little bit about this. The 3 different risks from wildfire would be direct flame contact, embers, and radiant heat. In LA County, over half of the homes that are damaged or destroyed ignite from embers. So just removing things that embers could catch in your zone 0 and getting rid of gaps around your home really would help. So I will talk a little bit about home hardening, and some of the common things we see are gaps. For example, vents. People might have screens on them or none at all, or they'll just be the wrong size. So just make sure whenever you go home that your vents have 1/4 inch mesh screening on them. Oh, sorry, 1/8 inch screen. Thank you. And any gaps on your siding or anything, they can be filled with caulking, covered with paint, just so anything that an ember can get in and start a fire on your home. Make sure to replace missing roof tiles. If you have the ceramic roof that, the wavy ceramic roofs that a lot of people have, make sure there's bird stopping or something to prevent embers from getting in there and starting a fire underneath that. And then the other thing we'll look at is your landscape and defensible space. One of the key things is just maintenance and yard work, regularly clearing away leaf litter, debris, twigs, whatever you got out there, and trimming your plants, creating space between plants, creating some space underneath bushes and clearing that out. That makes a huge difference. And then zone 0, the first 5 feet around your home is really important. So the home is obviously the most important. Make sure you prepare your home and then work on your zone 0, and then work out from there. Because if you have a lot of things to work on in your home, it can be overwhelming. So start with the home, start with zone 0, and then work your way out from there. You see, I think I have some good examples maybe. So if you have tons of dense plants growing on your home, I would trim that back, get rid of them, whatever you need to do to create space between your home and dense vegetation and combustible items. The house on the right still have some plants, but they're low lying, they're in non-combustible pots, and they might need to trim back that tree a little bit still, but looking pretty good compared to the left one. So definitely, if you want to learn more, sign up for one of our evaluations, come to one of our community wildfire trainings. Also, defensiblespace.org is a great way to work through some of this together. Through this with the website. It'll have different levels of either upgrading, getting it new, maintaining, and it'll give you suggestions. If you need a new roof, you can go on there and see what would be possibly the best roof to get. If you're just trying to make your roof safer, they have options for how to do that as well. So really great website. And if you scan this QR code, which will also be on the next page, yes, if you scan this QR code, you can find all of our great programs, websites, links, and things that I discussed. So some great projects that we've gotten to do recently, we're just wrapping up our Zone 0 project, where we removed vegetation in the first 5 feet of people's homes and replaced it with gravel. So that was really awesome. And then we have these landscape designs. We're going to have prototype landscape designs up on our website, I believe at the end of October, coming soon. And you can see examples of how to space your plants, different options for plants that you can put there. So that is a really great resource. And we just wrapped up our home hardening reimbursements, hoping to get more funding for that. But we were actually able to give people some reimbursements for the work they had to do on their homes. And then our wildfire defense series, you can find through this QR code. There's like 13, 14 different videos about these different aspects that you can work on. So how to do your Zone 0, what can you put in Zone 0, what you should do for a red flag warning day, how to trim a tree, how to do your vents yourself, anything DIY that would be easy to do, caulking, things like that. So definitely check that out. I think that's it.
Hi there.
Oh, thank you.
Right here.
Oh, good. There you go.
I'm a landscape. I live on a very steep hillside, and you're looking at 30 feet. What do you do other than just, doing the brush clearance on it? Is there anything else you can do?
Next to the home, you still want to have some clearance, but further away, you can have more plants. You can plant native plants that are good for stabilization so that you don't have as much erosion.
Okay.
Okay, great. So please scan the QR code. I think this is my last slide. Yes. Pass it on to Ryan. Thank you for listening to me speak about wildfire resilience.
And by the way, Arizona was talking about that mesh. There's a group down there called Wildfire Defense Mesh. They have this stuff. You can do that stuff to buy it and redo your events. There's a guy named Jeff Ozima and Blaze Blockers who will do it for you if you want to pay him. And it's really a good thing to do. Next up is Jay Lopez, who is the Executive Director of the California Wildfire Mitigation Program Authority. Jay Lopez, retired Assistant Chief of the Los Angeles County Fire Department Forestry Division, now leads the California Wildfire Mitigation Program Authority. With over 39 years of wildfire mitigation and forestry experience, he champions wildfire resilience through home hardening, mitigation solutions, and vegetation management. Lopez holds advisory roles within the California Board of Forestry and Fire Protection, State Fire Marshal's Office, and U.S. Green Building Council, among others. A recipient of the SAF Presidential Outstanding Field Forester Award and the U.S. Green Building Council Resiliency Award, he holds a BS in Agricultural Forestry Engineering, and his extensive emergency response and international disaster management. He has plenty of expertise in that. And also, he was a mentor in helping us create a Fire Safe Council, one of the first ones in the Santa Monica Mountains back in 2010 and 2011. So Jay is a good friend, and here he is.
Well, it's always great to go home. Great to see everybody. Appreciate the kind introduction and the great work that we have done together. And thanks to you, Susan Nisman, you've been a key person to keep Santa Monica Mountain safe. And the years that we overlap together, I will always treasure. So the state wants to do something about what we're talking about, home hardening, defensible space, at not only about homeowner level, community level. So because we know that is more than just hoping. The state over AB 38, which was a bill signed in 2019, mandated CAL FIRE and Cal OES to create the California Wildfire Mitigation Program Authority. And we were created, COVID kind of delayed us a little bit, but by 2022, we got going, and we started with some grants, and I'll talk about that in a second. But our main goal is two things. One, a reasonable defensible space up to 100 feet or the end of the property, and the home hardening itself. And when we go and tell people, harden your home, people go, well, you go to John and Betty, they're 75 years old. They say, what is home hardening? Where do I start? And you ask John and Betty, they just got married and they have their first house, 25 years old. And it's the same answer. What is it? Where do I start? So one thing that we develop in my program is to have a strong program model that we can put it all over the state at not only a home here and there, but at neighborhood and community level. So let's not just harden one home here and there. Let's harden 50, 100, 500 homes right next to each other, or if there's parts, the homes close to each other. It's locally led. The money comes from legislature to my shop. Then we take that money, go to FEMA, and try to get money for you. But then the local group, could be a fire state council, don't need to go and try to get $5 million to be the match for FEMA. We provide that for you. And it makes it very democratic. because you can have a city, a county, or a fire state council, a firewise communities doing this. And this is what we're looking for. We want to have as many homes in our community. This is in Northern California. All of those homes have signed up to the program so far, and all of those are being worked on as we speak. So methodology, very important to have an assessment done, but we use the National Institute for Standards and Technology hazard mitigation methodology, which is a proven methodology. It's about the spacing, not only the structures, but the plants around your home. And everything is done with an assessment. When we started, there was no application, so we created our own application for our iPads, and we go to a house, do an assessment looking into the house and looking outside the house, so we make sure that defensible space is done first, and then the home hardening. That creates a report for defensible space for zone 0, 1, and 2. And then we can determine what the retrofits are going to be when we look at the house. And Laura was mentioning the first 6 inches off the ground are critical for ember collection. So when your wall meets the sidewalk or the bottom of your house or your garden, right there, we know that the embers collect right there. Those 6 inches in our program get changed to non-combustible material. But you cannot do this without having a standard. So we created a minimum quality standard. So for every retrofit that we do, it's attached to the state fire code. It's attached to approved products by the state fire marshal. So we make sure that what is done in each property is something that the property owner can use not only to make the home more resilient, but also for insurance purposes. And I'll talk about that in a second. And we created what we call the MQS, and we have it for both defensible space and home hardening. So we also know that we cannot do this in a vacuum. We have to bring all this together. So we work with the NIST, like I mentioned, but also the California Department of Insurance, Safer from Wildfire programs. If you're not familiar with it, highly recommend it. Go the California Department of Insurance, Safer from Wildfires. That is a mandate that the state insurance commissioner gave to the insurance companies that are admitted insurance companies here in California to provide discounts for the work that is done at your house, in your defensible space and your home hardening. Also, our minimum quality standards line up with the IBHS Wildfire Prepared Home, also with the Housing and Community Development. Headwaters Economics, which is providing a lot of the data that we need for cost. Also, our program is lined up with the NFPA, Firewise USA. And currently, we're working with the new Office of Land Use and Climate Innovation, used to be the Office of OPR for the state. So we cannot do this separately. It cannot be done fast. So we had to really take a time to build this properly for every home, because every home here in California is different. But that's what the state is doing. There's more to come as it relates to AB 888. That's the State Insurance Commissioner funding, and the Prop 4 that will pass. There'll see some money coming our way for that as well. Thank you.
Okay. I know you brought some more slides. I'm wondering if you could just take a couple minutes and just go through some examples of before and afters, because he has some really good slides. We want to keep things moving, but I just wanted to give him a chance to show some of this stuff.
Thank you. Well, we've done some work, so we want to show you. I wanted to show you some of the work that we're doing for defensible space first. So people, what Zone 0 looks like. That's an example of Zone 0. That home, both homes have Zone 0. Trees are highly encouraged. We want trees to be around. Just need to be limb up 5 feet off the roof and 5 feet off the side of the house. But you want trees in there. So that home, both homes in there have Zone 0. The other one is people said, we want to disconnect the fence, the wooden fence from the house itself. So that's an example. This is in Lake County. It was down in there. The person really liked corrugated metal, and it looks great. and she has a big dog, almost as big as the dog that was walking around here. And she had a hole that she had to patch on her wooden fence. She said, the dog is kind of mad now, but doesn't get out. And then changing that also when you fence itself touches the house. So on your left is the wooden part of it, and that's a metal product that disconnects your home from from the wooden fence. So you avoid that wooden fence coming all the way to your house and igniting your home in there. This is what we mean by trimming, just a little bit. We want trees, we want shade, so we just trim it a little bit off the house. This is a work in progress, and this is Northern California, Siskiyou County. So you have an area that is within 30 feet of the house. You just gotta limit up, get those trees limb up, and take all that excess vegetation from the bottom. This is a panoramic view also. This is in Shasta County. And then you can see the difference from the left and the right. So the whole idea is to maintain the vegetation, but just reduce the contact of vegetation from the bottom up and from side to side. And some of the work that we do is also changing little things like in this part, this is not pressure treated, but it's fire treated wood. It's approved by the state fire marshal. But also, I don't know if you notice on the picture here on the very left, this flashing is a big part of staying with the state building codes. That just separate that wood because the pressure treated wood separated from the home itself. Crawling spaces. This is in San Diego County. They share tanks, and I know quite a bit of tanks are here as well. This is a metal fence around it, protects the tanks, protects they used to have lattice and plants around the tanks. Now they're much safer. This is a before and after enclosing a deck. So what it looks now enclosed. So embers will bounce around, but will not get underneath the house. Ember resistant. This is actually ember and flame resistant vents on the bottom left. This is when you're gonna have flames coming to your house. Mesh will stop about, if it's 16 of an inch will stop all of the embers, but only about 38% of the flames. So you're gonna have flames because you have a structure, a neighbor, or something like that. You wanna go with this type of mesh. And then Arresto mentioned this. These steps are non-combustible material. They last a long time too. This is for my program. We do more than 2 inches. We do 2 feet on non-combustible material. This is T111 wood on top, and then we replace the whole bottom with I don't want to say a brand, but hardy board, cement board in there. And then also separate your deck from the wooden part just by 2 of the components in there. And you can see right here also we talk about vents, 16 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch work well. The replacements on the bottom of non-combustible material, cement board. And these are eaves. There's different type of eaves, metal, cement board, but cement board also with venting for your attic. And that's all I got.
All right, so Tom. We're going to call Mr. Tom Mitchell. We are going to raise the screen. We're going to do a really quick panel. If you guys want to 3 up, get up there. I've got your name. All right. Okay, so look. What's the most effective thing that I can do to lessen the risk from embers, and where do I start? If I was going to start, what's the first thing I should do?
I would say start.
Mike?
I would say start with looking at your home first. Look at your roof, look at your walls, your siding, everything, and look for any gaps greater than 1/8 inch where an ember could get in and start a fire. And then you would fill those gaps or your roofing tiles or whatever the gap is.
I will look for areas where you see leaves already accumulating, areas that you have, let's say if it's a defensible space, dead plants, so you can easily start removing the dead material out of them. but you see where the wind eddies and creates piles of leaves right in there. You have a vent right there. Maybe you want to work on that vent. You have combustible material, wood right next to it. Maybe you want to work on those 6 inches. But right where you have leaves accumulated during a wind event, you're going to have quite a bit of embers accumulated as well.
What vulnerability do you see most when you evaluate homes?
I've done a lot of homes in Topanga. A lot of them are connected by wooden fencing. One of them that I went to, it was an all wood house, all wood siding, surrounded by a wooden deck around the whole house, and then wooden fencing that went all around the property line that had dense vegetation all along it, and then attached back to the home. So an ember landing in any of those places would lead fire back to the home. And then vents, gaps, wood pieces of wood that are on your home, whether it's in the eaves or your shade structure that have wood rot over time that, embers could definitely start a fire on.
And I would say that another question I had is, I'm sure that you guys have been looking at this, but have we learned anything new from the Palisades and the Eaton fires? Have we learned something like what homes that survived had in common, or what homes that didn't survive have in common?
I'll say we did go out on a field deployment to the Palisades and Eaton fire footprints. One thing, I'm not sure it's super surprising, but we were that 0 to 5 foot zone. Things that were in that zone, like your trash can and your hot tub, things that we don't always think about moving out of that zone. But we went back to our lab and we tested a recycle bin, a normal recycle bin, half full of recycled materials. We lit it on fire, put our sensors on it. That burned equivalent to 3.5 gallons of gasoline. That's how much heat it put out. And the same thing with a hot tub full of water. If it's within 10 feet of your home, the embers will get underneath like that hot tub on fire. Once it starts to burn, that plastic burns hot, and it was breaking in through the windows. And so we burned 3 hot tubs in our lab and did the same thing every time. So things that you don't always think about, that just looking around your home and moving things away, that makes a big difference.
And it's very important to mention that when post-fire assessment is very difficult because we were not there. You don't know what happens. So we see vulnerabilities. We identified what was vulnerable, but it's not what, we were not there to see what happens. And it's a game of inches. If it's a plant or it's a piece of wood, we have some cases that you can see that somebody kicked the wooden door away, and that was enough to, we believe, to stop the fire. So just be aware when the post-fire assessments are just an indication of what is vulnerable, not so much what succeeded or what did not.
Well, at this point, to be really fair to you guys, since we got 10 minutes left, I figured we'd open it up to questions. So if anybody has a question, would you please Tom's going to turn the mic on, and since we're videoing this and we really want to document this, if you could just walk up to the mic and ask a question of any of the panelists or anything you guys have got, we got 10 minutes to do that.
Hi, everybody. I have a question about native plants versus non-native plants and what difference that makes in hardening our homes and right around them.
So native plants are more well-equipped to live in this environment. And this environment, wildfire is a natural thing. Drought is also very common. So some of our native plants are better able to deal with drought and so won't dry out as quickly and easily and be fuel for fire as easily as a plant that might dry out in the summer that's non-native.
But we always have somebody who wants to plant something else. Is the arrangements of the vegetation, but however, what we're trying to make our homes is adapted to fire. But we live in a community, plant communities adapted to fire, so learning from them. You have a hillside that is steep and requires some stabilization of the hillside, like you were mentioning. Native plants are the best. And I will stick with native plants, but just the spacing. However, it's always somebody that wants to plant something else. just spacing among those plants, not only horizontally, but vertically, it'll be a good way to go partial to native plants.
What can you do if you're renting a space and let's say your landlords are not focused on home hardening as much? How much can you feel empowered to control and do on your own around the area, at least immediately around your own rental? I don't know if like that helps if the whole house isn't fireproof, but yeah, I'd love to hear some thoughts on that.
I have done evaluations on a lot of homes where people are renting, and it is a lot more difficult than making changes if you own the house, but it's not impossible. A lot of the time, people will just let the person who owns the property know, hey, I'd love to become more fire safe, make sure it doesn't burn up. Do you mind if I get an evaluation done of the home? And then I can share that information with you, and they'll share the report with both the renter and the homeowner. And they can decide to make the changes or not, obviously. But there's a lot of things on there that we try to make priority that are cheaper and easier to do that people would be potentially willing to start with. And then once you've got that working together already, then you can start approaching some of the more bigger ones or more difficult ones.
I would say something's going to benefit to them. So wildfire prepare home. So my home is a wildfire prepare home. It's not for rent, but my insurance company was hinting that they were going to, well, maybe we're going to let you go. My home is right against the Angeles National Forest and the station. And now the Eaton fire got just very close to my house. But if they get a wildfire prepared home designation, I will encourage you to get them with that because they can get the benefit of not being dropped. That's one of them. The second one is with the Safer from Wildfires that I was mentioning earlier. They get discount for all the items that get done. They can get a discount on that. That's also another way to go. Lastly, Assembly Bill 38 mandates to have a hazard declaration when you're going to sell the house. If you declare your house and you say all that was done, you have the upper hand. If they're going to sell the house, because before the new person moves in, all these mitigations that they would like to see done on that house will have to be completed before the new person moves in. So right now, LA County Fire Department goes and provides defensible space, but also that defensible space is your hazard mitigation declaration, so it needs to be done. Now, starting July 1st, 2025, is going to includes also the vents, windows, and all that. So they can benefit by those three items. And if you want, I can write them down for you, pass it along before you leave.
Yeah.
Motivate them because it's going to be monetary benefits for them.
By the way, the Safer from Wildfires Initiative is a California Department of Insurance. We're going to have a Representative Richie from the California Department of Insurance at 3:00. So we'll be talking more about that. And I would just add, what a wonderful tenant you are that you want to make your person's home safer. That's great. All right, thank you. We got to go to the next question.
I want to do it real quick.
Okay.
Control what you can, though. Move things away from your house on a red flag day. Take your trash cans in your garage. Throw your cushions off of your chairs into your garage. So just do what you can control. And something that they probably wouldn't even notice is if you just bought some 1/8-inch mesh and put it over the vents.
Yeah. Okay, we got 4 minutes. We got a couple people, so let's see if we can get through this really quickly. I don't want anyone to be left behind, but we got to stop at 2:50.
Okay. I've actually got 3 questions. I'll ask them in a row. First of all, similar to the last question, but what about your neighbor, right? We're right on the property line. We have growth and bougainvilleas growing within 5 feet, right, of us, and our neighbor doesn't like us cutting it back. Even if we cut it back a bit, it's going to grow back, and touch our house very soon. So that's one question. The other question is, regarding the fencing, like I had my house looked at a few years ago. They mentioned the fence, but I couldn't find any fireproof fence that looked good. And and so maybe there is good fireproof fence now that looks good, not corrugated iron. My wife shot that down. And then thirdly, is there a contractor who just specializes in this so we can just hire them and they can just take care of it?
So on the fencing, yes, there's about 5 years ago, there was only one metal fence manufacturer. Now there's 6, and it looks just like wood. So that's for that part of it. And I think we have some people here. Is it Moderna's here? that do home assessments, and they will walk you through the process to get wildfire prepared. So if you're not a DIY guy, then there are companies out there, and we advertise them too on our website, wildfireprepared.org.
Yeah, Blaze Blockers is another one that's one of our things. They'll do that kind of stuff. Right? Okay, we got time for.
Can I just hear about the neighbor? Is there anything I can do?
Yeah, well, so one thing I will recommend is call the RCD and have an assessment, and then tell the neighbor, hey, would you like to have RCD do that? Removes you from that, and then the RCD can do an evaluation on the property as well, and then combine the work. That could be one way.
Thanks so much. Great.
I'll make this quick. We had a valuation a few years ago, and they said the plastic skylight, which is still our concern, that the embers usually roll off of them. Is that still the feeling on that? Or should I be going to some kind of tempered glass unit?
Yeah, we've tested that. So the first thing you want to do is, if you can, replace it with dual pane tempered glass. If
Right.
you make some flat ones. If you can't do that right away, at least get some screening underneath it, some 1/8" mesh.
So a catcher?
To catch them.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay, two quick questions. One is, I have a well cared for orange tree that's at the corner of the house. It's as tall as the roof, which does not have an overhang. And I'm wondering, do I need to take that out? It's next to the house, but it's an orange tree.
No, if the tree, even the trunk, is the talks on sun zero are happening right now, but it's if the tree is within 5 feet of the house, all we ask is just kind of limit up away from the house. That'll be good for the house by itself, not having the branch touching. You can go 5 feet, great, but you cannot just try to limit it away from the house. If it's
Should I reduce the height?
No, I think you want to keep it going, and you don't want to unbalance the tree and look bad, but also it's not good for the health of the tree. Okay. If the tree's not going to get taller than the house, you just have to pull it back from the side of the house.
Okay, great, thanks. And then I have a Trex deck. Is that a fire hazard?
Trex has, by the way, we're going to come over and get some oranges from you. The Trex has different materials, and they have non-combustible so they call Class A, Class B. So you gotta make sure, want to know what you have. The non-combustible are recent, so you've had that for a long time. Maybe it's not. It does take heat, but it is combustible in the long run. If it's an old one, but if it's a newer one, especially if it's non-combustible, it's also a little more expensive.
Okay, great people. It is now 2:50 p.m. Thank you so much for keeping us on time. Thanks to our panel.
Thank you, everybody.
We'll be back in 10 minutes with the insurance panel. Thank you so much, everybody.